In many ways, Nioh 3 is an ultimate encapsulation of Team Ninja's strengths as a developer today. Its pedigree in hack-and-slash action stems right the way back to the Ninja Gaiden series, of course, and while the Dark Souls influence today is clear, the Nioh series trails its own unique path. One big twist for this third outing is the ability to instantly flip between two movesets in combat, between a samurai and ninja with a tap of the R2 button. Combined with the huge scale of upgrade options, skill trees and weapon loadouts, the game offers a frankly dizzying amount of flexibility to tailor your character's combat style. The second twist for Nioh 3 is its world design. Team Ninja pushes for what it describes as an open field layout this time. Not quite a seamless loading screen free open world, but still much broader in its structure than the first two Nioh titles. And, as ever, its unique Katana engine technology is used to realize it all, following on from its use in 2023's Wo Long Fallen Dynasty and 2024's Rise of the Ronin. The setup is promising then, and there is a real artistry to Team Ninja's mythological take on Japanese history here. In terms of its style, Nioh 3 trends towards the comic bookishly over-the-top, a blending of traditional Japanese history with myth, fact with fantasy, settling on this nightmarish backdrop filled with demons. Sadly though, the Katana engine behind Nioh 3 produces results that are at times rough around the edges. It's not a total deal breaker, and the sheer depth to its combat steals the show, but looking at PS5 and PS5 Pro, the open field design is blighted by visual bugs. For a start, sprinting at pace, you'll catch geometry and shadow maps popping in and out. Even using the 30fps Prioritise resolution mode on either machine doesn't nip these odd visual issues in the bud. So, straight up, it's something you'll just have to accept to enjoy the action on console, just as with Rise of the Ronin. So, focusing on the PS5 machines today, let's see the state of Nioh 3's performance overall, and what PS5 Pro enhancements are in place here. To cut to the chase, there are two modes on base PS5 and PS5 Pro. You get a Prioritise FPS option which adjusts its resolution to maintain 60 frames per second, and then a 30fps Prioritise resolution mode with a fixed resolution. Alas, we are missing the ray tracing option for RT reflections that shipped in Rise of the Ronin 2 years back. Still, for the remaining two modes, the stats break down like so. On base PS5, the FPS mode ranges from 720p to 1152p, depending on GPU load, while the resolution mode fixes at 1152p. Flipping over to PS5 Pro meanwhile, the pixel counts are bumped up even further, taking the Prioritise FPS option to a higher 792p to 1296p range where in theory this could rise to 1440p in rare moments. And then the resolution mode on PS5 Pro runs at a more impressive fixed 1440p. There's much more to this as I'll get to, but it's worth stressing that other visual settings are broadly identical across both modes and consoles. Hence, shadow quality, textures, and geometry draw are all a match no matter which you pick. The one exception is screen space reflection quality, which, using PS5 Pro as an example here, runs at a different, higher preset with the resolution mode. There's less flicker and it's generally more temporally stable. Otherwise, there are a few anomalies in these comparisons. Shadow maps render in slightly further afield on the resolution mode at times. Note the shading to the trees behind the character here, but generally this appears matched in typical play. The key difference is image quality then, and whether you'd prefer a fixed higher resolution at 30fps or to run at 60fps with dynamic resolution. The bigger point relates to PS5 Pro's enhancements. Interestingly, it doesn't just stop at a simple res boost, and the anti-aliasing method of choice is also evidently changed for both modes on Pro, moving away from the AMD FSR method on base PS5. Many of the characteristics of Sony's PSSR upscaler are on show too, and while it's not 100% confirmed, let's present the evidence. To start, the two biggest giveaways are how Nioh 3 looks in motion, and then also in static shots. During any movement, the good news is that motion is handled much better on the Pro side. Tracking back and forth with a close zoom, the details ahead on this path resolve with more clarity and stability on Pro. Flickering on the foliage ahead is greatly reduced, while base PS5 by comparison pushes a coarser, rougher presentation on any fine elements in motion. You'll see a big upgrade in clarity across hair as well, while armor detailing and those white flapping straps are stabilized by PS5 Pro's AA method. It's not just that it's rendering more pixels on average, which it does, but those pixels are being more intelligently interpreted from frame to frame to create a cleaner end result in motion. As an added bonus, and this matches the behavior of PSSR used in the Control Ultimate Edition Pro upgrade, Nioh 3 avoids ghosting trails behind the character. Again, let's go for a 4x zoom on this one. Note the buckles on the character's front and how PS5 Pro eliminates those ghosting artifacts as we pan the camera around. Stability and clarity in motion are the upsides then, but there are 3 drawbacks to PS5 Pro's approach. Point number 1, even with the higher pixel count on Pro, static shots resolve with a softer overall appearance. So again, this slightly blurrier image in still moments is a classic sign of PSSR in its current implementation. It's not a deal breaker of course, and we're hardly playing Nioh 3 while rooted to the spot, but it's an interesting tell that it's likely PSSR at work. Secondly, and unusually, it appears screen space reflections resolve with more shimmer on Pro, with more noise and breakup on those highlights as we pan across the distance. And the final point is perhaps the most frustrating. On the FPS mode where the resolution is dynamic on both consoles, PS5 Pro introduces an issue with flickering across the whole frame. Essentially, anytime the DRS kicks in, it appears the image struggles to stabilize around a new pixel structure. For a few frames, the screen's details will pixelate as, presumably, PSSR interprets a new resolution, whether that's 810p, 900p, 1080p or higher. It's sadly a feature of PS5 Pro, and not an issue at all for base PS5 on this very same route. Now to be clear, it's not a constant sight on Pro, but you'll certainly spot it occasionally in transitions between areas where the GPU usage spikes and the DRS engages more aggressively. Switching over to performance testing next, the outcome here is as straightforward as it gets. As you can imagine, Nioh 3's combat demands a precise level of timing that only 60 frames per second can provide. And the good news is that the Prioritise FPS mode delivers on both PS5 systems, at least mostly. Across the first 3 hours of play, I've bumped into lurches into the mid-50s on both PS5 and Pro, but DRS quickly adapts to restore the game to 60 FPS. In short, you will inevitably see drops no matter what. Once you start meddling with explosive ninjutsu items or special abilities, it'll slip under targets, but the lurches are fleeting and it averages out to a mostly convincing 60 FPS experience. Later areas and bosses might push these consoles harder, but so far, it's in a good enough place. Now, for PS5 Pro owners, there's sadly no drastic improvement in smoothing these drops out. Neither console is totally spared, so ultimately the best way to smooth these moments out is to engage VRR on a supporting display. Of course, a 30 FPS resolution mode is on the table too, but realistically it's hard to recommend. Yes, you do get the higher fixed resolutions on PS5 and Pro, but the cost to playability is clear. 30 FPS on its own is a big sacrifice after playing at 60, but adding to the problem is the uneven frame pacing. It does run at 30 FPS convincingly, but the frame times on the left-hand graph there trill between 16, 33 and 50 milliseconds constantly, creating a sense of judder. It's a familiar problem historically for Dark Souls fans, but given that we've a working 60 FPS option, it makes the mode an easy one to avoid. Unfortunately, all cutscenes run with this unevenly frame-paced 30 FPS cap, regardless of mode, so it's something you'll just have to put up with to some extent on console either way. In terms of its overall presentation, Nioh 3 is a mixed bag on console. Despite being a PS5 and PC exclusive, the Katana engine is behind the curve in producing what you might call a modern experience. Issues with SSR flicker are there on both PS5 consoles, while materials often look rather low quality for a current gen title. Add in the shadow map and geometry pop-in issues, and the technical aspects of Nioh 3 are far from its strongest suit. Meanwhile, PS5 Pro addresses some image quality issues at least, but in the process introduces its own quirks, notably on the 60fps mode with that additional flicker on DRS changes. Still, putting all those technical points aside, the saving grace really is Nioh 3's combat and its creative enemy designs. The 60fps mode works well enough too, but as with the case with Rise of the Ronin 2 years ago, it's worth being prepared for a similar level of rough edges as you explore its world. But that's all from me today. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to like or subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell for instant notifications as any new video lands. Check out our Patreon to support what we do at Digital Foundry, and to get in touch directly, you know where to find me. But for now, thanks for watching.